Welcome to the Harvesting Wisdom podcast. Together we explore the vast landscapes of life, delving into the rich soil of experiences, sowing the seeds of curiosity, and harvesting the profound wisdom that each episode unfolds.
Hi, it's Dr. Rossell. I'm the guest host for Harvesting Wisdom. Mike McMahon is wrapping up his tour in Africa. We have projects in Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Malawi. He's checking on those. So I get the great privilege of being here today with Councilwoman Hodge Washington. And we have a very special announcement. We're kicking off our community podcast here at Red Velvet Cupcake. They're a great partner in urban farming education. And the focus of today's conversation really is sustainability. I'm excited about this topic because not a lot of people know all the sustainability initiatives Phoenix does. I just hosted a conversation at U.S. Compost Council, and I was able to hear what we do as a city, what we do in our convention center, and it's really astounding what we do. So, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions just in general on the impact that Phoenix has in the sustainability movement. And then we're going to dive into the light rail because it not only is it a sustainable form of transportation, but it's also helping to grow businesses in Phoenix. So let's start with the first point of view. Talk to me about the importance of sustainability for Phoenix and some of the big initiatives that are happening as a city.
So, thank you for having me on the podcast, first and foremost. I truly believe that Phoenix continues to be a leader in sustainability. And I'm talking about something that's not really that sexy, but like our solid waste. We have the most efficient landfill in the country. We are able to, divert more and more materials to our landfill. And even those that we are taking to our landfill, we are continuing to minimize our footprint. We are minimizing any type of water impact, air impact, just all of those things. We had a really great presentation presented to us by our Public Works Department about this. So from a sustainability standpoint, another thing I'm really proud of from the city of Phoenix is our investment in our shade and tree plan. We know that nature's is one of the best ways in which we can combat some of the, what we're seeing are, I wouldn't say inconveniences, but the dangers of climate change. And we are seeing that as we continue to get rise in temperatures, some of the things that we can do to counteract that is our investment in trees. And our shade and tree plan is an intentional investment in specific areas where we have noticed that there is an absence of trees. And we find that a lot of that to be in some of our historically disenfranchised communities. And we are working to be intentional to address those. Because we know trees can reduce the temperature, it provides for better air quality, it provides for better walkability, all the things that make a city more sustainable.
You brought up two great points. The first thing I want to dive into a little bit deeper is the City of Phoenix solid waste program. I know that there's a lot of programs that can engage the community. I know that when we had a presentation from Denali, they're one of the vendors that works for the City of Phoenix, they talked about how there's specific programs for landscapers to dispose of the green waste, which is really important because not a lot of people realize that they're actually throwing away a resource.
Correct.
When they send it to the dump. So by composting it or by processing it, you're turning it into compost, and it's actually used as a resource.
Correct.
Which is great. So are there concerted efforts to try to engage community members in order to engage in those programs?
Yes. So actually, you're talking about our Green Organics program, and actually, we are trying to weigh how we can expand that. And I'm actually trying to do a pilot here in District 8 because that is a portion of the community that has reached out saying we want to be more engaged and be able to avail ourselves of this program. So I'm in the early stages with Public Works to see how that can be done. So that's a great example of how we listen to community voices and try to come up with a solution that works for us.
And honestly, I'm really excited. As the CEO of Urban Farming Education, we're trying to do complementary programs to your shade tree program. We're trying to expand the Foodscapes in the city of Phoenix. We're partnering with a group that has one of the biggest foodscapes in the city of Phoenix. You might have seen him on our podcast, Chris, and the Grand Canyon University with their sustainability program is trying to create foodscapes on the city of Phoenix. Have you guys ever thought of when planting the trees and kind of double dipping instead of just planting regular shade trees to do fruit bearing trees so that they're producing food in the community areas?
I will say I believe we have thought about it because I've heard other people bring it up and we've had conversations. But we are also, I don't necessarily know if we've committed to that route yet because there were some concerns about maintenance and all the things that go with it. But I don't believe that it's beyond our consideration. I think it's something that maybe in select locations may make more sense. But we have considered it, I'll say that much. One of the things I think the city of Phoenix does really well is the level of community engagement. We provide community with quite a number of opportunities to be heard in our process, whether or not it's our general community meetings or more intentional strategic types of forums to get community input, such as our hackathons, where if you think there is a problem in our city and we have a forum set up where you focus simply on that problem, we hear from diverse opinions on that. So I think we are still in the process of finalizing exactly the types of trees, and maybe there is an opportunity for us to determine which areas or neighborhoods would make more sense for Foodscape.
Well, you bring up a good point. Part of looking at projects like this is why you launch them. They have to be sustainable, and there's issues with water. There's issues with different types of plants that will do well. There's issues of remediating the soil to having them be healthy. So it's not just a matter of taking a tree and sticking it in the dirt and crossing in fingers. So those are all good points. But I would definitely be interested in being part of that conversation because I know for us that's something we have a vested interest in is to try to change Phoenix where there's more foodscapes versus just shade trees.
No, I agree. I definitely think it's a plausible goal, and we can definitely connect you with the team that is leading the shade and tree outreach. I'm sorry, their project. Although I have on green today, I don't have a green thumb, so I probably am not the best person to talk about. But I do know enough about gardening and the whole notion of agriculture to be dangerously knowledgeable. But I do think it's probably helpful to direct you to someone, and we can definitely do that.
Absolutely.
I think we are continually evolving. Things that used to be considered, I wouldn't say not doable, but not the way we normally do things, have now been integrated into how we see things. Like, for example, something as simple as the chilled water station. We have been able to, through strategic placement of those stations, we've been able to reduce the footprint of plastic bottles into our landfill and conserve water in a more meaningful way because we do recognize water is important.
Yeah, you mentioned the hackathons too, and I know a little bit of knowledge, kind of like your knowledge on gardening. I know that you're partnering, I think, with the ASU in order to find creative, innovative solutions to the challenges. And was the water chiller, was that a outcome of a hackathon?
Yes, it was a recommendation. It was one of those kind of reoccurring needs. And yes, so it did come out of one of the hackathons.
Okay, so let's switch gears now. We're going to start talking about the light rail. And personally, I'm excited. Anyone that's traveled to larger cities, they know that transportation is key. And a lot of larger cities around the country, around the world, have very efficient, effective public transportation. So if you're a visitor to that city, really what it does is it gives you access to all parts of the city, and it makes things so much more accessible. So let's talk about the light rail in Phoenix. There's been some news out there that there were challenges at the beginning because of construction. I have empathy for everybody out there because I'm putting in a pool and it's very inconvenient to live in a place where there's construction. But now it's finished. I want to also talk about the impact of local businesses and community members. So why don't you kind of lead us through the process on how it's evolved and what you think the impact's going to be for the city of Phoenix?
Very great question. So I will start off by acknowledging that the light rail extension, especially in the south central part of the city where we are right now, was not necessarily something that was welcomed in our community. There were some concerns about how change would impact the community. But I'm grateful. I think the turnout we saw on the grand opening on July 7th was reflective of the work that went into our light rail development and the community engagement. We were able to take something that was maybe not so supported by community into something that was supported by so much of our community. We had I would vary to say more than 1,000 community members come out for the light rail opening. Wow. You could feel the buzz. You could feel the excitement. You could feel that there was a level of buy-in to what this brings to our community. So I am very proud of that. I won't take the credit for it because I know it started long before I came into office. But for me, what was very important was ensuring that during the construction that our small businesses were not unduly impacted. I know any level of construction is going to impact the small business. I'm a daughter of a small business owner. Like that is how, I mean, I tell everybody that's how I went to school. That's how everything in my life, because I had a small business owner, my dad. And I know how very much times small businesses have a small margin, and they sometimes don't have the reserves necessary to weather longer storms. So I was very concerned, and one of the things our light rail administrator will tell you that was constantly on my check-ins was, how are we ensuring that we are not impacting negatively our business owners? Are we responsive to their concerns, whether or not it is a misplaced barricade in front of their business, or is it some irrigation line has been cut? How are we responding to them? And even so one of the things I tried to do as we were getting closer to opening, because I know personally, sometimes I would kind of sometimes not want to drive Central if I have a concern. But I was trying to get, what I wanted to do was be more intentional getting traffic back on Central to get people to check out, oh, it's almost finished. So my office, and I partnered with District 7, Carlos Galindo Olvera, to provide holiday bucks it was a program that encouraged individuals and businesses to visit the businesses on the light rail route, so that they could continue to support them. I know many times for a retail, small business, that the holidays tend to be an area where they kind of are able to not create a surplus, but they have usually higher than usual sales. So we kind of coincided that with the holiday season. I also was very supportive of programs that provide marketing support, outreach support, just continued business development, so that businesses would be able to sustain themselves during this moment of transition. And so I am excited because I believe the light rail represents connectivity. Especially, I'm focused on the South Central extension because that is in my district. But we're connecting a segment of our community that historically been disconnected. It's no secret, history tells us that the Salt River was often a dividing line for the community. And I think to have our first light rail service over that light rail should be celebrated, because we are being intentionally connecting a part of our community that has not been connected. And then we are doing it to a community that needs it. One of the statistics that I think is telling is in this area where the light rail is now being added, the statistic ranges from 60 to 70% of those individuals don't have access to a vehicle. So now we are connecting access in multiple ways. It's not just relying on the bus. It's now a faster way for them to connect to some of our resources, such as our universities and our hospitals that are north of the river. So I am excited for the potential. I'm excited for the connectivity. I'm also excited for the growth. As you mentioned, it is now an avenue that people visit in our great city can now participate and see and embrace the history that South Phoenix represents. It is historically and culturally different from our downtown area, and now we have access to it in a swipe of a card, I should say, to get down here.
Well, I have to say, when it comes to community engagement, you set the gold standard. I worked with you when I was on the Chamber of Commerce and in my previous role as an educator, and you bring city resources to the community when we do COP or other initiatives. So hearing you talk about all the initiatives that are coming up, it's obvious that you made that connection and the feedback is ringing true. What initiatives do you see, or where do you see us moving forward? I know that the initial feedback of her business is great. They feel like we've turned the corner. What are the plans for the future in order to encourage the continued growth and usage of the light rail to connect the city?
So one of the things that I have heard about from this area consistently, the residents as well as businesses, is many times it doesn't feel like our plan of growth in this area is intentional. And again, I believe that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So what I've been working on is a couple of things that I think address some of the needs in our community. And I think when you address needs in your community, you encourage people to come into the community. I am a firm believer that our neighborhood should be where we can live, work, and play. On a live portion, I think it's no secret. One of the areas that we are short on is quality healthcare. We do not have a trauma 1 level hospital south of the river, and it's time that we change that. So that's an initiative I've been working on. It's not one I can like post on my social media that I'm doing, but I've been intentional about that. We have been talking to CEOs and the presidents of the organization to explain to them the need, the viability of the hospital in this area. And you might say, why am I talking about hospital when I'm talking about sustainability? Like healthcare for me is or access to quality healthcare is how you make a community sustainable. So for me, that is a big part. And then the other concern that I heard, that I hear very often is access to, they don't feel like we have the same access to offerings in our community. So we have kind of been pigeonholed into certain types of development, whether or not it's drive-through restaurants versus something that's a little more elevated. Like, so it's about creating quality investments in our community that reflects the needs of our community without sacrificing the culture of our community. So those are my goals. Towards that goal, I had a restaurant and retail tour, showing them some opportunities, giving them some information about the community, and ensuring that they understand the desires of the community. So it's not just come and build in, I don't want to say a company name, but a cookie cutter business, but put in something that matches and aligns with what it is that our community wants. I believe community feedback is key. So for me, community engagement is very important. City government is the closest to the community. And I think the best way you serve the community is always having access to the community. And I also believe that's meeting the community where they are. There are some members of our community that have no problem coming to the meeting that is scheduled, but some of them I have to bring the resources to them. One of the things that we started doing through my office, Risk Consistency Services, is walk-in knots, where we are sometimes walking in neighborhoods we don't see and just saying, hey, we are here for you. Is there some concern we do have? And trying to ensure that I believe that government only works for individuals if we know what it is that they need. And I have a responsibility as a representative to be intentional in ensuring that I hear what it is that they need.
Well, you've said a couple of things that really resonate with me. I don't live in South Mountain, but I've worked here for almost 20 years. And for me, what I hear constantly is they don't want to lose the culture or the history of living in South Mountain. And part of that, they feel like when they're not involved in the conversation, it's pushed upon them. So that's a really important detail that you brought in. I want to thank you for joining us this morning at the Harvesting Wisdom podcast on location at Red Velvet Cupcakes. We're calling this series our community outreach series. We're going to be hosting these once a month. And when you think of Red Velvet, think of the place that's like your second home, but with cupcakes. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. Hopefully harvest some wisdom from me.
Absolutely, I did. That was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining the Harvesting Wisdom podcast. Click subscribe and like for ongoing insightful conversations. Explore our webpage for show notes and additional resources. Visit our guests' webpage for deeper insights. Your engagement is the foundation of our journey, and until next time, keep pursuing wisdom.